I'm going to show you the ultimate jaw-dropping settings of your LG OLED for gaming on the PC. You have to turn on HDR on Windows, so right click on the desktop, go to display settings, you turn on HDR, and you come here on the HDR settings, you scroll down, and you have to max out this slider. Okay, you have to max this out to 100%. Then you go to your TV, game optimizer mode. So we're going to come here to game optimizer. Let me lower this so I make sure you get this. Then you scroll down to fine-tune dark areas. Okay, so on fine-tune dark areas, we're going to use -11. Then you go to your settings on the TV, game optimizer mode, brightness. We're going to lower this screen brightness to 49. We're gonna use HGIG, and we are going to select the black level to limited. Okay, we're going to force limited. So on the NVIDIA control panel, it is full. We have to force limited. You see the difference here. It's gigantic. It's from washed out to amazing. I'm gonna show you the settings on the NVIDIA control panel too. So we have to full range RGB 10 bits. That's it. Just if you are curious what I'm using on this game, I'm using NVIDIA image scaling, and I am using 33% sharpening. This is the matrix demo, and these are the rest of the settings. This is the most photorealistic game I have on my PC. This is not even a game, it's a tech demo. But this is the most impressive, the most photorealistic simulation that I have on my PC. And the reason why I show you this is because I want to show you that these are not like wildly incorrect settings that look overly saturated and unrealistic. This looks like real life. Okay, this is so amazing that you're probably going to just set and forget. But I have to explain you that these settings are not going to work for the desktop. Okay, so if you just want to use the desktop, you cannot use fine-tune dark areas -11. Okay, if you're going to use the desktop just to work on the computer, you need to have these fine-tune dark areas on 0 and have your screen brightness on the default 50. Okay, because what we are doing here is we are double limiting. Okay, so when you turn on HDR, you have the SDR information. So all the desktop information, all your programs are on SDR, and the games too. So that SDR information is limited within that HDR. So what we have to do to resolve that problem is we have to force limited on the TV, because forcing limited on the TV is going to expand that signal. We are telling the TV the information we are receiving is limited, so we need to expand it so we can show the full range. Okay, but the games are, the SDR games, most of them are limited within that SDR full container, and that's why we do the second time limiting, and we are just limiting the black level, not the highlights, because maxing out that HDR slider on Windows is going to max CLL 498, and that is very close to the 530 value that is going to call for the maximum peak brightness on this LG C1. Okay, that explanation, it might be too compressed for you to understand. Go back and watch my 25 minutes video explaining you why this is the case. And moving forward, I'm going to be showing you some comparisons between native HDR, Windows Auto HDR, so supported HDR games from Windows 11. And I am going to show you also in detail how I figured out the brightness values, how I figured out exactly the value to lower that black level. So in case you have a different TV, you know how to get this working. So maybe your TV has the option to limit, but maybe your TV doesn't have the same, it's a different TV. So I have to show you the test patterns that I use and how I use those test patterns to get the values. So this looks so realistic. This looks like real life. It's so impressive, man. Look at this thing. It's just amazing. So I'm going to show you also, maybe on your TV you may have to access the service menu to force the limited. Maybe, for example, your GPU doesn't support full range at 4K 120. Maybe you have to use limited because of that. So then the way to force and to make this work, you're gonna have to maybe access the service menu of your TV. So I'm going to try to give a solution for everybody in case that you have a different display. But for now, if you have an LG OLED, these are the settings. Try them for SDR games and for broken HDR games. Okay, so for example, I opened Final Fantasy VII because I saw a gaming tech video that the HDR on Final Fantasy VII remake is amazing. So I say, oh great, let me install the game. I open it. I open the HDR calibration menu, and wow, it looks great. Then I go back to the game. Hey, what's going on here? It's not working. I go back to the menu. This is just not working. So when I go back to the calibration menu on the HDR, it is working. And then when you go back to the game, it's not working. I say, what is going on here? And what's going on is that the game doesn't support full screen. The game doesn't support full screen. Something as simple as that. So if you don't support full screen, the HDR doesn't work. So how can the developers miss that? How is that possible? I wonder, how is that possible? What developer with any level of attention to the most basic, it's so basic. How can you support HDR and not have full screen option? How? If you are porting a game to the PC and people wait a very long time to get that game on the PC, and now you port it and you miss that. It's unbelievable. Of course, you can download a mod to make that work. I was looking on the internet. It's not easy. It's not one of those mods that you just copy a file and done, or you just modify a file on the settings, on the config files. It's not that easy. So for a case like that, okay, just use SDR, do this. It's gonna look amazing. Done. Just you just want to play the game. When we have those kind of broken HDR games, all those situations, you're gonna use this, and it's going to look unbelievably good. It's just amazing. So for example, if we come here and we switch back and forth from HGIG to dynamic tone mapping off, you will see how the highlights pop. See the building, how it pops. Well, on the camera it's not as visible as in front of me. So I see, for example, here on this car, how the light pops. I don't know if you can see it on the recording. Might not be as visible. Of course, this building here pops. It's amazing. And this is gonna work for everything. See the sun, of course, the clouds, they're gonna pop a lot. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions. And what I want with this video is to just reach out to more people. Like, I'm gonna title this video like, the ultimate jaw-dropping settings or something like that, so people that have an LG OLED and they have a PC, they learn this stuff. Because if you learn this, you're basically fixing, you have for sure, you can get 100% for sure amazing HDR results no matter the game. Doesn't matter if the game supports or not auto HDR from Windows or native HDR, it doesn't matter. if it doesn't support anything at all. It doesn't matter if it's an old game. If it's a game that's old, it doesn't matter. And I'm going to compare this option with native HDR. The native HDR is better, no question about that. If the implementation is decent, the native HDR is better. But this is so good that I am sure that people who try this setting and they are like, man, I just don't want to be like, you know, having to set up the HDR settings every time. It's a mess, it doesn't work. Those people are just gonna set these settings and forget about it. Just enjoy playing the games because it looks insane, it looks amazing. But I strongly recommend you to learn how to set up the HDR settings on the game, and I will show you. I'm gonna teach you how to do that. It's not difficult. It's not difficult. We have some broken cases, but for the most part, it's actually very easy to do. Very easy. We just need to take a screenshot, open that with the HDR WCG image viewer app, which we can get for free on the Microsoft Store. And then what we do is we see the max CLL, which is what the game is trying to output. And then after we know what the game is trying to output, we just have to set up the in-game sliders for it to be 797 for this LGC1 or 1000 if you have a different display. So that's it. It's not very difficult. Usually the in-game sliders should tell you what they are doing, but sometimes they are not. They don't work as intended. Or sometimes you increase the midtones and that affects the highlights. So you need to know that stuff. So you set it to 800, but then you raise the midtones, and then now it's like 900 or 1000. So yeah, then it's going to clip the highlights, and you're not gonna know why it's looking blown out. So yeah, let me know if you have any questions, and yeah, just here to help and trying to share this information with people so they can get this amazing HDR.